We're here with Tom Coburn, the CEO of Jebbit, for Signal 360's Startup Spotlight. Now, tell me briefly what Jebbit is, because I think it raises a lot of interesting issues and opportunities, and then we'll talk about sort of the journey to where you are now.
Sure. So what we do today is we're a platform that lets brands create these interactive experiences, and there's all different types that we can dive into, but the core of them is they get consumers to engage and answer questions in a very natural and genuine way that doesn't feel like a survey. And so the ultimate value of the platform is we gather all this question and answer data about the consumer's likes, interests, preferences. We call it declared data at Jebbit, and we give that data to the brands who are leveraging the platform so they can power more personalized marketing going forward.
Brands and the platforms where they market have a lot of data on me. Why do they need more?
So I think there's a few trends happening right now in the ecosystem. The first is most of the CMOs we talk to agree they are trying to shift into focusing on their own first-party data strategy. How do we get more data?
And first-party data is?
Customers? Data you get directly from your customers. So most traditionally that is the transaction data of what they've bought. It's the behavioral data of what they've clicked on your website. And then normally a little bit of maybe some survey or some panel data here or there. And so the problem that we're helping solve is how do you get that last piece, that explicitly given data? We call it declared data. You might also hear the term zero-party data. How do you get that at scale?
It takes a long time, and you make a lot of mistakes before you end up with a client like Procter & Gamble. Tell us about the early years and some of the mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, so we made a lot of mistakes, as you hit the nail on the head on. It's really only been in the last 2 years that, from at least our perspective, things have started to click. So I would say the first 5 years, we were pivoting the product slightly and trying to figure out exactly what we were going to be. And then we have pivoted out to just enabling a brand to take this really engaging and genuine experience, and they can put it wherever they want. It doesn't have to be in an ad format. It doesn't have to be through paid advertising. They can put it on their website or in their emails or in their app, anywhere they're interacting. One of the questions that led to some of the biggest pivots or updates at Jebbit was asking our customers, what would we need to be doing for you to spend 10 times as much money with us as what you're spending right now? We had gotten early traction. We were doing a couple $1 million in revenue, but things hadn't really grown. And once we started asking that question, especially to executives, when we could get in the room with a VP of marketing or a CMO, it opened up a whole new world of problems that they had. And we realized, wow, these are actually problems we feel like we're in a great position to go solve.
So Tom, the business that you're in, gathering data on behalf of brands, consumers are now very aware that data is a big deal, and to the point where political actors, the European Union, the state of California, have created new regulatory frameworks. How does that affect your business?
Yeah, so we get excited with all of it. I think our perspective has been, we've always felt our approach is really just the way things should be done. Brands want to learn about their customers rather than them buying third party or tracking us around the web and trying to make assumptions about who we are. We've thought, just interact with your customers and ask them. And most customers now are getting hundreds of emails every day, looking at hundreds of social posts in different apps. There's so many little touch points where we can learn one or two things about a consumer. And so, this shift is exactly what we predicted was going to happen. It's been really exciting for us to see part of it now getting enforced by regulation and by some of what's been in the news around companies mismanaging data. And so it's all been really exciting, and we just feel like this is the important shift that needs to happen.
As a startup founder,
there's
often, when you take in new money, pressure to find bigger and bigger and at-scale business models. Are you concerned that perhaps now that you have your funding, you might need to go find another order of magnitude business model, which might be co-ownership of that and aggregating that information and doing other things with it?
Yeah. It's an awesome question. I would be lying to you if I said it's never been discussed in a board meeting or in a conversation, but I think anytime we've had the conversation, we've just reflected back on what is really the DNA of our company and what do we think is the right thing to do. And we are very convinced right now that this problem we're solving is a massive problem that is going to face every brand. I mean, Jebbit's very focused on the enterprise right now, But every brand that's out there has to think about how do we interact with our consumers in a genuine way and learn more about them. And so we have a lot of confidence if we stick to what we're doing and do what, again, we think is the right thing. We don't feel like the future is going to be around selling data and pooling data, and there's a lot of, second party is growing, but there's a lot of challenges with two different enterprises trying to come together and share their data.
Yeah.
So we are very confident that empowering brands to go out and gather their own explicitly given first party data is a massive market and is something we can build a very large company in.
I want to ask you, as a founder,
Yeah.
and having been through many of the struggles that you've been through to get to the point you're at now, what is some advice you would have for founders out there, both external, starting a company independently like you did, and those who have a founding mentality inside of larger organizations?
Yeah. So I think the thing that we really struggled with in the early years and wasted a few years on was just trying to force our idea on the market. And it's pretty standard advice, but not really listening to our customers. Mm-hmm. And it was just a couple tweaks from that early idea to the one that ended up really working. But I think you struggle as the founder between, on the one end of the spectrum, we have something really new and innovative and we need to educate people. And on the other end of the spectrum, our idea is actually not quite as great as we think it is right out of the gate. And it does need to be updated and evolved. And so you brought up the fact that we were in business for 5 or 6 years before we even met our first Procter & Gamble brand and had a conversation with P&G. But it was hundreds of conversations with customers and tweaking and evolving the product and the positioning over the years to eventually get it to the point where it is now.
You probably didn't have experience managing a fast-growing business. So tell me how you figured out how to manage a company that was scaling from five people with a dream to, how large are you now?
About 60 people
60
now.
people now.
Yep. The simplest two things were asking a lot of CEOs to get coffee and give me their advice of what they've done. And then also just acknowledging that within Jebbit, we needed to bring in help. I mentioned earlier, it was 5 of us right out of college that started this and got to a place we were pretty proud of just from figuring it out on the fly and working really hard and pouring in way more hours than we probably should have at the time, but we had to do it that way. And so over the last year and a half, we've brought in an executive team, all of people who have done it before. Right. And that's just been amazing to think about how we scale from where we are now to where we want to be in the next 2 years.
What's the scale that you reach consumers at?
Tens of millions of consumers we're interacting with.
Wow. Wow. What's it like to work with P&G brands compared to other large companies? The good and the bad, don't hold back.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the best things that we actually just had this conversation at Jebbit the other day is how much P&G people share positive wins and new things they're doing with other P&G people. Jebbit works almost exclusively with enterprise brands, and there's many brands where we're in and then we get very siloed with just one division or one group within a much larger organization. And so P&G has been very open to webinars with us, sharing, sending newsletters around, just really spreading the word. I think the biggest challenge is, like most enterprises, just speed. And it's getting a lot better, and we're learning how to work with P&G and get things done a lot faster. In fact, I just got a report on Monday that we signed a new brand in Latin America on Thursday, and they were live with their first Jebbit experience on Friday, which was an awesome win. And that was all from us working on getting specific templates in the platform for P&G brands that we know have the right brand guidelines and we know have other details in them that I won't dive into. But so that piece has been very exciting.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for being part of our first Startup Spotlight for Signal 360.
It's been awesome. Thank you.